What's going on? It's your boy Cyrus back here with season 2 of the Alpha-Logic-Fallacies podcast.
It's your boy JV. What's the deal?
Yo, so today what we're going to do is we're actually going to show you guys how to play craps. This is one of the best games out in the casino, and I want everyone to know how to play it because I actually want everyone to know how to make some money.
It gets pretty interesting.
Absolutely. So what I did here is I gave Jay $100 in chips. If you can see on the board, you got the white chips, red chips, green, blue, and black. White chips signify $1. Red chips signify 5. Green chips signify 25. Blue chips signify 100. And the black chips signify 500. All right? So the concept of the game is, if you can see on the board, you have a pass line here, right? That pass line basically tells you you're actually playing in the game. So if the buy-in is normally $10, for example, you're going to put 2 red chips on the pass line like Jay just did, right? And now what the dealer will do is get the 5 dice, pass them your way. Jay, pick 2 dice. All right, so the basic concept here is pretty simple. Jay's going to roll the dice to hit the wall. On his come-out roll, which is his first roll, what he'll do is if he rolls a 7 or 11, he automatically wins, and anyone that's playing on the pass line automatically wins with him, right? Typically, when the shooter actually rolls an 11, the dealer says yo 11. It's kind of something traditional at the casinos, right? So if you hear me say yo 11, that's the reason for it. The next thing is these 3 numbers right here. You got a 3, you got a 2, and you got a 12. Those are considered crap numbers, right? If you see here on the board, you have 8 for 1 any craps. That means if you're betting on this slot right here, you're betting that on the come out roll, the shooter is going to roll any one of these 3 numbers. If he does, then what happens is you win 8 times whatever you bet on there. If you bet $5, you win 40 and so forth, right? Now, the third option is if you don't roll any of these 3 numbers and you don't roll a 7 or 11, you may roll one of these numbers that are here on the top of the board, right? So if you do that, like let's say, for example, Jay's going to roll right now. He rolled a 6. The dealer puts the on button on 6. What that means is now he has to continue rolling until he hits that 6, and then he wins along with everyone else. But in the meantime, he and everyone else that's playing can bet on all these other numbers. When the button is on, as long as he doesn't roll a 7, everyone continues to play. And if you have bets on the other numbers, if he's rolling those numbers in the meantime, you're making money as well, right? So I'm going to get the dice right back to Jay. Roll it again. Well, actually, before you roll again, do you want to bet on any of the numbers?
Yes, I do, actually. Let me get, well, I mean, I don't have no singles. Let me get 15 on 8.
All right, so right now, Jay is betting on an 8. Typically, 6 and 8 pay higher odds than the other numbers, right? So if it's a $10 buy-in on the table, you typically have to put $10 on each number that you're going to bet on. But these 2 numbers, coincidentally, you're going to have to bet $12 because it pays $7 to every $6 you bet, right? So he gave me 15 bucks here. I'm giving him change. Here's $3, and I put $2 on top of his bet. So now he has a $12 bet here. If he happens to hit that number, then he'll get paid $14 for the 12 that he actually put on.
Well, Cyrus, let me ask you, how many different type of bets can I put on the table?
So you can bet on, so the money you have on here is automatically betting on that 6. Just like everyone else. If everyone else has money on the pass line, they're betting on that 6 also. But you can bet on all of these numbers here. You can also bet on the field. So the field is, while these are individual bets up here, the field bet is you put money on this section and you're betting on all of these numbers. So keep in mind, you see how the 2 says double play. If he happens to roll a 2, if you bet $5, you make $10. Same goes for the 12. If you bet $5 and he rolls the 12, you get $10. The thing with the difference between the field bet and these bets is field bet, let's say he rolls a 4. He gets his winnings, and he can actually pick up his winnings along with his original bet on the next try. For these numbers here, whatever you bet, it stays on pretty much the duration of the actual round. All right? And what I mean by that is the round meaning if he rolls a 6 or if he rolls a 7 and everyone loses. All right? So you're betting 5 on field, right?
Sir.
You bet 12 on 8. Roll again. 8. All right, so right here he won. So Jay wins $14 for the 12 that he bet on the 8. Everyone continues to play. Roll again.
Now, at this point, can I, after that first roll and we won, can I throw in some more bets?
Absolutely. So between rolls, you can always bet on any other numbers or any other options. Like, for example, here, he has money on the 8. But this section here, this is called the hard ways. And what it means is these are even numbers. And if you roll 2 dice with the same number, for example, for a 10, if you roll 2 5s, that's considered a hard 10. If you roll 2 3s, that's considered a hard 6. If you roll 2 4s, it's a hard 8. If you roll 2 2s, it's a hard 4. The odds are pretty good on these bets because it pays whatever it says on the board here. So if you bet $10 here and you actually hit a hard 6, you make 10 times whatever you bet and so forth, right? You can also bet here in the middle, and it kind of covers all 4 of these bets, and it gives you better odds. So do you want to bet anywhere else?
Yeah, let me get 10 on 5 and 10 on 10.
All right, roll it. 8, hard 8, hard 8. All right, so it's a hard 8 because, like I mentioned, he rolled a 44, right? Hard 8. If he would have bet his money here, he would have made 10 times whatever he bet originally. But in this case, he hit the 8 here, so he makes money again. 14 bucks. But he actually loses here. He loses this $5 because there's no 8 in this section. So I picked that up. He still continues to roll, though. 4. Okay. He doesn't have a bet on the 4, and he didn't bet on the field. If he would have bet on the field, he would have got the 4 bet there, but he didn't. Any other bets you want to put on?
Yeah, I'll post 2 on the field. 10 on 12.
7 out. All right, so in this case, he rolled a 7. That's the one number that you don't want to roll whenever you have the button on a number. All right? So in this case, everyone that's betting actually loses everything. So it's a new game now. There's a new shooter. And that's pretty much, in a nutshell, what craps is all about. Typically, when you go to a craps table, you want to go to a craps table where it's pretty full, right? Where you can barely get into a slot to actually play, because that shows you that the actual table is making money and all of the shooters on there are making money. One of the things that you want to be careful or be aware of is this section right here on the actual board. It says don't pass. So don't pass means that the player that's putting money there is actually betting against the shooter. That kind of energy you want to try to stay away from, because typically they're betting on everyone losing so that they can win, right? And I don't know how superstitious you guys are, but I like to believe in the energy on the table. Typically, when you go to a casino, you hear people yelling and screaming because they're actually making money. Whenever you see someone betting on the don't pass line, typically the rest of the players start removing themselves from that table and going on to another table, right? So here in this don't pass, what it means is if you put 2 chips on there, Jay. So now let's say I have a 6, right? Like we just played before, he had rolled a 6. If he happens to roll a 7 while everyone else loses, that person actually makes money. So they're making money while they're betting against you. And that's one thing that you want to stay away from.
So basically, just with that, what actually happened at the table that the other side of the table is actually betting against us?
So they actually saw that a lot of times the shooters were not rolling really well, and they were actually losing a lot of times. So instead of betting with the shooter, they started to bet against the shooter because they figured, hey, let me use that to my advantage. If these guys suck at shooting, I'm going to make my money one way or another, and I'll do it while betting against them.
So basically, there's 2 different ways of making money, either betting against the table or with the shooter.
Absolutely, absolutely. So this is one of the games that I like to play only because you can be at a table for like 3 or 4 hours, right, and making a lot of money. When we went this last time, a couple of my buddies made $800. One of my guys made $1,100. One of my guys made $700, right? We were there for 2 hours, and it was a thrill because to win money, you lost a little bit, but then you gained a lot more money. I don't know. Whenever I get money in my pocket, I always get excited.
See, I think the experience for me, when it came down to that, is like we was there as a family, as a group, to going to the table and just doing it, as a whole, instead of just being yourself, going to a table with just different people and then building a relationship. Like we already established a relationship.
Absolutely, absolutely. No, and we also got to know people at the table at the different casinos that we went to. You know what I mean? So that's kind of cool because you get to see how other people play. You may have a certain strategy that may work on one given day, right? But on any given day, a different strategy could be applied that would actually make you a lot more money. So I like to pay attention to how different people play. If my strategy is not working on that given day, then you know what? If I see this guy's making money by doubling down on the actual 6 and 8, or putting more money on the field. The field is actually not one of the bets that actually has higher odds. A lot of people tend not to bet on the field, but your timing has to be really good when you're betting on the field. You know what I mean?
Very true.
And you want to make sure that you pick up your winnings, right? Because if you leave your money on the field all the time, odds are you're not going to win every single time. You know, so that's this is one of the actual places where if you feel it, you feel that number is going to come out, or any of these numbers is going to come out on one given roll, put the money down and then pick up your winnings, keep it moving. These bets here are a lot safer. And if anything, try to bet in this section here where you have higher odds, higher payouts for your money.
You know, there was one thing that I really couldn't understand is how to get that great roll. You know what I mean? Because I've seen people do different things on how to keep the roll going. So it's like I never really found my rhythm. So, like, what would you say, like, how to get a good roll, how to find your rhythm in rolling?
So I think everyone has their different way of rolling, right? Obviously, right? But what I like to do is I like to make sure that whatever number I'm trying to roll, for example, I'll get the 2 dice and I'll put it to that number. So if it's a 6, I'll put the number to the 6. I'll tap the table and I'll toss the dice so that it has the least amount of rolls. Okay, that way the odds of rolling that actual 6 are higher than regularly, right?
Meaning like throwing against the board.
Yeah, so a lot of
like
people
hard.
just like to throw the dice, right, and just roll it that way. While you may have a good chance of making the numbers, for me, and again, this is only for me, like the odds for me of making an actual number that I want to actually shoot, I actually put the dice like that, and I actually match the actual number that I want. I tap it, and I toss the dice, and look, I got a 6, right? You see?
Yeah.
You see how I rolled it?
Yeah,
I put the 6 here, I got the 6. It didn't roll exactly the same way, but the result was what I wanted, right? And that's typically my best way of rolling a 6, or actually rolling the number that I want to come out. So I know you like to roll by just, you know, throwing the dice at the wall, right? And well, that's not a bad thing, because some people, actually my wife actually rolls really well, and she rolls, that's actually how she rolls, right? So I guess whatever works for you. I can't give you one specific way to roll because you have to feel it. There's times where I'm rolling so good that I call the number out before I roll it and it comes out, right? And there's times where I lose. Every single roll is a 7 and I'm out like $600-700 in a matter of like 40 minutes, right?
Yeah.
So
the reason why I asked it too is because, I mean, being live in an actual casino, the table's like almost twice the size.
Yeah.
So it's like, and you're standing on one side, so it's kind of like you have to hit the wall, you have to reach the wall on the other side.
Absolutely. So, one of the things also that's important, if you're on a hot streak, right, and you're hitting all the numbers, you're hitting good numbers, you're making money, everyone on the table is making money because of you, right? And you happen to roll one of the dice or the dice fall off of the table, I would recommend calling same dice. And what that means is you want the dealer to pick up those dice and give you those same dice so you can continue rolling. Because if you get new dice, sometimes the energy is off, right? And it kind of throws off your rhythm a little bit. And that's something that you don't want to do whenever you're playing this game.
Which will lead to my next question. What are the don't do's in the game of craps?
So some of the don't do's is don't reach over the table and put, for example, if you're on that side, you're not going to reach over to the table and put the money on the actual number that you want to bet on. Typically, and it was a little weird to me when it first happened, but at the casino, you basically call it out. You throw the chips on the table and you call out the number. The dealer's already paying attention to what number you're calling. So for example, if you say 10 on 8, 10 on 6, 5 on 4, right? The dealer will already know, okay, this goes here. And the way they do it is, if you're standing here, he's going to put the money there because he knows that that's your money, right? Just like the 10 here and so forth. So you don't want to reach over and put the money where you actually want the money to go. You allow the dealer to do that. Another thing is you don't stick your hand in the middle of the actual playing field while someone's about to roll, right? That's a do not do, right? So you want to make sure your hands are always off the table. Another thing is you want to make sure you don't take the dice off of the table. So if you have your 2 dice, you're rolling. Some people like to do 2 hands. You never do 2 hands because the casino could probably think that you're switching the dice.
Right.
You feel me? You have loaded dice. Or you never want to take the actual dice off of the table. Okay? So you always keep the dice over the table and roll it. All right?
What about like you always have to place bets before the roll, during, or after? Like, how's that work? As far as placing your bets.
So your bets have to be placed. So, all right, let's start from the beginning. When you have your money on the pass line, right? This is your first bet. You can't bet on these numbers here up until the button is placed on an actual number that's rolled. Okay? What you can do is, though, you can bet on the field, or you can bet in this section here that says any craps. What you got to keep in mind is that these boards actually change at every casino that you go to, right? Because this predominantly stays the same, and so does this along with the pass line. But what goes on here, there's other options that some other casinos give you, right? And that varies by casino.
So what would you say, like, being newcomers coming now, you already introduced how to play. Like, what would you say to the newcomers that actually want to go in and play craps? Like, as far as like mindset, or, you know, just anything you want to give out to newcomers to go in and have a great experience, even if they lose.
So typically what I would say is go with $100. Put $100 on the table. Put your pass line bet and bet on 6 and 8. 6 and 8 are the highest probabilities of actually rolling, especially if you see someone that's actually a good shooter. If you see someone that's a good shooter, 9 times out of 10, they're going to hit that 6 and 8. And if anything, when you make your winnings off the 6 and 8, push on that 6 and 8, meaning double it. So if you make $14, put that back on so that it's a $24 bet versus a $12 bet, and continue to grow that bet amount, because that's what's going to make you a lot of money. Also, one of the things that I didn't mention is you want to, if you roll at 8, 10, 6, you want to double your odds in the back, because if you put odds in the back here, if the person actually rolls that number, then you get paid here, but you get paid double in the back. So, funny story, the first time I ever rolled at a casino was at the Bellagio. It was my 30th birthday, and I was there by myself. It was a table full of people, and there was a gentleman next to me, older gentleman. I mean, he was probably like 75, but he had like almost $50,000 in chips, right? And since it was my first time rolling, I was being very cautious. So I was betting maybe $10 here, $10 here. I didn't want to lose a lot of money. I had only put $100 down. I had $1,000 on me to play, but I wanted to be conservative. The gentleman told me, hey, listen, you're going to bet this certain way because I'm going to teach you how to play. Obviously, he knew what he was doing, so I followed his lead, and he showed me how to win up to $800 within a matter of 5 minutes. And that's what got me hooked onto the game, right? And aside from that, the actual dealers, if you sit there and you ask them, hey, what is this bet for? Or what are the odds on this bet? Or what are the benefits of betting here versus betting here, right? Like, for example, here, you can bet 6 and 8 here, or you can bet 6 and 8 here. That's actually betting on the individual number. When you bet 6 and 8 here, if you bet $10, it only pays you 10. Versus if you play here, if you bet $12, it pays you $14. All right. So those are some of the things that the actual dealers help you, right? They teach you how to do. I mean, you're going to get some dealers that are kind of a pain in the ass, and sometimes they're kind of stuck up. They don't really want to tell you much, right? But the advantage of having a dealer that's actually open-minded and wants to teach you is great, right? Because that way you can learn as you go. And as far as being aggressive, remember that at the end of the day, they're trying to make money. The house wants to make money, so they want you to bet. They're going to teach you so that you can bet, and they're banking on the fact that you're going to lose that money, so that way they make the money.